All right, so we're going to get started in a few minutes. First, let's do Affiliate Summit a solid and make sure you fill out the feedback forms. I think they're giving out free gold passes to Affiliate Summit West for people who fill these out, so make sure you fill it out at the end of the session. And today I want to tell you that I'm going to present to you a framework for getting more sales, more leads, more traffic. Now, who else wants more sales and traffic in here? All right. Now, I'd like to say I had the foresight to create this framework, and I did everything perfectly from the start, but it's just not true. I actually got burned really, really badly. And I want to tell you about this today so you don't make those same mistakes. A few years ago, I ran an entertainment website that was all about getting more traffic because I made money by getting ad clicks, page views, and all those sorts of things. And I was basically running a chop shop. The more traffic I got, the faster I tried to send it away from my site. And I was getting, at the time, millions of people to my site every month. But I was building no brand equity, no brand exposure. Making money, no brand exposure whatsoever because people were leaving my site as fast as they visited it. Then what ended up happening was I got addicted to traffic. I needed more traffic to run my business, and I kept looking for more traffic. I was like a drug dealer looking for, a drug addict looking for some more hits every day. Where am I going to get new traffic sources so I could turn those people into clicks? Now, that's all well and good when you have an unlimited source of traffic. But when you're working with something where you're trying to fill a strainer up with buckets of water, just trying to fill the strainer up, but it's not working because it's just coming out the other end and nothing's staying behind. You're losing everything that you're putting into your business. So that happens when you look at something like Panda, or you look at something like social media, or you look at something like one big site sending you a ton of traffic like Dig, Reddit, or all of those places. It's like getting traffic into your site. If you convert it into a click, you're going to lose them as fast as you get them. And what you want to do is you really want to plug those leaks on your site because likely everyone here is already getting some traffic, right? Everyone's getting some traffic. No one's starting with zero. And if you're getting some traffic, let's say you're getting 1,000 people a day, and you turn 1,000 of those people, maybe 100 of them, into loyal traffic, and you do that for a month, you're actually looking at 3,000 people a day you're starting at. And when you're trying to build a business, that's basically tripling the amount of, the amount of hits you're getting. You can make more money off of those people. Now, it wasn't until I lost all of my traffic that I realized this. I went from getting several millions of hits per day, per month, to about 50,000 or so a day. I went from getting 150,000 uniques a day to about 50,000. So my revenue was cut in half. And that's when I realized that I was working with a broken business model. I needed to keep these people because Google had updated an algorithm in 2007, which is where all my traffic was coming from, and I lost all of that. Then I started reading about something called the Pair 2 principle, which is the 80-20 rule, and everyone here knows about the 80-20 rule. And it's all about the 20% of results or the 20% of people that gives you your 80% of your sales in your business. So I started focusing on cultivating that 20%. And the way I cultivate that 20% is by focusing on building email lists. Instead of getting traffic, turning it into ad clicks, I focused on turning all of my traffic, or as much of it as possible, into emails. And the reason why I focused on email marketing is because I then controlled my sources of traffic. I no longer relied on Google. I no longer relied on Dig. I no longer relied on Reddit or anything like that. So once I started focusing on this email list, I did some tests. Built an email list, sent out an email update, sent 3,000 people to my site in an hour and a half that I controlled, that I can control every day of the week. So today I want to show you part of this framework I'm going to talk about is about how to get this traffic, turn the traffic into emails or leads, and then convert those leads into sales. That's the key parts of this framework today. Now, who here is using email marketing in their current business? All right, so every hand in the room did not go up, and you need to be using it by the end of today. Because if you're not using it, you're relying on someone else. And if you're relying on someone else, your legs can be cut out from underneath you without warning. Like Panda could come around and saw your traffic by a third. Now, before we talk about actually getting those emails, I want to first talk about how to get people to your site. Because no matter what you're doing, if you want to build a large email list, you need people coming to your site to convert into emails. And I have today 5 different strategies for getting traffic. And I'm going to go through each one of them. Now, my favorite way of getting traffic is all about content. You could buy traffic and that works. But again, Google could slap you, you could lose your AdWords account, you could get banned from Facebook and all this stuff, so you don't control that. So I like to focus on content because you control your content output. And if you create these 5 types of content that I'm going to go through right now, you can get free traffic. All you had to do was put some time into it, or if you're dealing with writers, you could tell writers to focus on this type of content, and then you could work on promoting the content to get this free traffic. So let's go over these types of content that create traffic. The first type is all about research. Research. Social Triggers, my site, is based on research. I just started really growing this email list back in late March, early April. And since then, I've attracted about 10,000 people on my email list for a marketing blog. And I did that by quoting research, psychological research specifically, but for anyone who's not talking about psychology, you could really quote any kind of research. Now, I'm going to use an example on my site mainly because this is what I've been doing, but there was an article about the Draeger Jam Experiment where they found that there's 2 jam displays. One had 6 jam displays. One had 24 jams on display. It was by Sheena Iyengar. The 6 jam display did something like 1,000% more sales than the 24 jam display. Now, what was funny was the more jams they had on display, they attracted more people to come by and look at their jam display, but no one converted into sales. So this was really interesting data. I knew everyone who's talking about marketing would love this because less is more leads to more sales. I wrote an article about it. I then promoted it to people who I knew would enjoy this article. And all I did was go to All Top. Does anyone know? Everyone knows All Top here, right? So if you don't, All Top is just a blog directory where you could figure out blogs in specific areas that you might be interested in. Went to All Top, emailed people about this new research I found, told them how it applies to their business, and then linked them to my article. And over the course of a few weeks, I started getting something like 20,000 people to my site that wouldn't have got there otherwise, just because I quoted some new research. Now, let's take a look at a different market. Let's say you're in the fitness industry. You might have recently heard about something, like pomegranates being a good detox medicine, and there might be some research linked to that. You could write an article that links to that, not necessarily pitch pomegranates, but you could create this article, go through the research, and explain to people how it directly applies to whatever it is you're doing. If you're in weight loss, you could explain how pomegranate juice helps people lose weight. You could go to the blog that talks about fitness, and you could tell them, hey, I got some new research, and chances are they're going to want to look at it because people love to read research, and research gets traffic. The second type of content is all about results. People love to see other people's results. No matter what market you're in, what industry you're in, people love to see the results because it's like they're getting the inside look of whatever it is you're doing. And as an example, in my marketing site, I'll tend to quote split test results. Like, here is one example that performed 20% conversions. Here's another example that performed at 40% conversions. People love to read about that. Every time I talk about results, always get a burst in traffic to my site. Working off of fitness, Earlier this year, I had the great idea of taking my shirt off and taking a picture of myself and embarrassing myself in front of everybody on one of my personal sites. And the goal was to lose some weight. There you go. Again, I took pictures of myself every week. I blogged about my results, and that site generated a bunch of, about 5,000 uniques in about 3 weeks, just because I was talking about how I lost 3 pounds, big deal, but people love to see it. Now, let's say you're in, I guess give me an example. Who wants to give me an example in another industry where results could potentially play? Anyone? Finance. I mean, that's easy. If you're doing stocks, you could simply talk about your stock trading results. Obviously, you're going to have to come with disclaimers and make sure you're not promising them the same exact results, but you could talk about your stock trading results. If you're talking about accounting, let's say you're in a small business niche and you hired a tax attorney and you realize that the tax attorney saved you $1,000 extra that you wouldn't have saved otherwise. You can then talk about those results, and people will love to see that content also. Now, another type of content that always works, and this is something that I abuse to all the time, and it always sends a ton of traffic to my site. I'm talking a ton. In some cases, 1 million people have came to my site because of this particular topic or this type of content that I'm going to tell you about. It's all about chasing hot news. I call it ambulance chasing. Now, as you know, Google Plus just came out a few weeks ago. Google Plus applies to almost every industry right now. You can simply write an article talking about how Google Plus applies to whatever it is you do. With us, I wrote about how Google Plus applies to marketing, or how Google Plus applies to, with the DIYthemes.com, we wrote an article about how to put a Google Plus button on the website, and that did really well, because we were chasing hot news. We knew Google Plus was big news. We knew if we wrote anything about Google Plus, connected it to whatever it is that we were doing, people would love it. As another example, earlier this year, who remembers the NFL seating disaster? All right, so I wrote an article about how they handled the seating disaster very, very poorly at first. You know, they weren't comping people free tickets. They announced that about a week later. But I wrote an article about how they weren't comping people free tickets, and they were really treating these people very badly. And I talked about how in marketing you want to make sure you're going to treat people better, and I used them as a bad example. And with that particular topic, I generated another tens of thousands of people to my site. It was untargeted traffic. And when you chase hot news, you're going to get a lot of untargeted traffic. You're not going to convert as high as you're usually converting. But what's going to happen is, when you get bursts of untargeted traffic like this, you're going to get links. There's going to be some people and hundreds of thousands of people who are going to like what you're doing. And hopefully there'll be some reporters in those hundreds of thousands of people that might not necessarily link you right away, but they'll remember you, and you'll be able to build some of that mind share for later use. So I don't recommend you use this hot news thing for every one of your articles, because, again, your readers could get sick of it. You want to pick your places, figure out how it works. As another example, Macho Man died earlier this year, and TMZ was stuffing a bunch of keywords in their URL structure, where it was like Macho Man dies, dead, death, and just kept stuffing all these keywords. So we wrote an article about how that was really bad, and it was kind of ironic that I was writing an article about how what they were doing was bad to score free traffic, because all I wanted was free traffic. But it worked out really well because, you know, again, I talked about how they were stuffing keywords, and that got the SEO's attention, and we got a bunch of links and a bunch of traffic to the DIYthemes.com site that we wouldn't have had otherwise, just by chasing hot news. Now, here's one of my favorite ones that you can use relatively regularly. You want to write content that creates a controversy. If there isn't a controversy, you could even invent one, and it'll still work. And as an example of inventing a controversy, all you could simply say is, I'm all about doing business ethically. I hate everyone who does unethical business. I think everyone in this room is going to agree with that statement. But just by simply saying that, you're going to identify with everyone reading, and they're going to think to themselves, oh, wow, I believe in ethical business too. And what ends up, you could then take that, combine it with some research or data, email some people and say, hey, we're trying to take a stand against these unethical business people. Here's an article I wrote about how to do that. And here's some research that shows you that when you do that, you might get better results. You could combine all three. Pitch that article to a blog, and they're going to love it. They're going to link it. They're going to share it on Twitter. And they're going to do it because you're identifying with them, No one likes unethical business. Now, let's say if you're in fitness. Fitness is on my brain right now because someone told me I needed to go to the gym a few weeks ago. But so let's talk about fitness. Let's say you're teaching people how to lose weight the right way, or just by good dieting and not chasing fad diets or anything like that. You just simply say, look, I believe in losing weight the right way without abusing supplements, without doing anything shady, no water pills here. We're going to show you how to do it the right way, and then talk about how you're doing it the right way by showing your results. And that's going to work for getting more traffic to your site also. Now, this is one of my favorite ways to get traffic because it's a really cool way to give people good value, and it's a really great way to rank in search engines. You want to create complete resources. Complete resources. And by complete resources, I mean a series of articles around one specific topic. Then you want to give an introduction to this resource page that you're creating and say, hey, everyone, I created this 5-part series that'll show you how to go from A to Z with everything related to losing weight in 30 days. Share it. Combine results into your resources. Combine data. Combine a little bit of controversy. You could then go out and pitch these resources to all these individual bloggers. Don't use automated pitches. Do it individually. You'll have a higher take rate. And if those resources are targeted towards specific keywords, they're going to link it. And since there's a lot of content there, it's going to eventually end up ranking. It's really that simple. We did this with DIYthemes.com. We wrote a resource about WordPress SEO. We put like 6 articles in it so far, and we're adding more articles to it regularly. Our next goal is to start getting links to it. And we haven't done very much promotion just yet, but we're already went from not ranking at all to, I think, the 2nd or 3rd page for a very competitive term, just by whipping together a complete resource about WordPress SEO. I've done it on social triggers. I have something called List Building 101, how to build an email list. I'm already getting a few hundred people a day to my site with those types of search terms, looking for people on how to build an email list. Now, think about what that does for your traffic also. If you're going to satisfy and give people all this value, not only are they going to link it, they're going to remember it, they're going to reference this resource regularly, they're going to share this resource. And going back on that list building one, when I whipped that together, all I did was took a few articles out of my archives that I had already written. I didn't even have to rewrite any articles. Took a few articles out of my archives, created a new WordPress page, put a little bit of introductory content talking about the fact that I had resources, that I just whipped together this resource page, and linked those articles that I already had. I then emailed it to my list, and they made a big deal about it. I got something over about 100 tweets, 30 likes, and something like another 250 emails into my sequence just by packaging together all the content I already had. I didn't have to do any more work. I just had to deliver it in a very easy to understand way, and it worked great. So those are the 5 ways I now use to get traffic to my site. But as I said, in this framework, it's all about getting traffic and turning that traffic into leads, and then turning the leads into sales. So the next part of this is all about turning that traffic you're getting into leads. And I want to share with you a few strategies that I use for doing just that. And as I mentioned earlier, if you're getting 1,000 people a day to your site, you're converting 10% of those people into email addresses. By the end of the month, you will be working with 3,000 people on your email list and successfully grew your audience by about 300% because you're no longer getting those people that just stumble on your site once and never come back. You're converting them into an email, and you can then communicate with them on your terms as opposed to their terms. Now, let's talk about how you actually get these emails. Now, part of it, which should seem a little obvious, is just using email sign-up forms in the right places on your website. There's a few different places, and some people, I've seen some sites bury an email sign-up form at the bottom of their sidebar, and naturally no one puts their email in there because who makes it all the way down to the page, especially if you're dealing with random visitors that you're trying to convert. If they don't like your headline, they're gone, leaving your page in a few seconds. So the 3 places to add email sign-up forms is 1, at the top of your sidebar. Just moving the email sign-up form from the middle or the bottom to the top could increase your conversion rate by over 100% just by putting it at the top of your sidebar. Another place, and this is my favorite place to put email sign-up forms, is, as you can see, this big box on my homepage. As soon as you go to socialtriggers.com, there's this big box where I try to get people to give me their email. Below that is the content. But I have the box there only on the home page. And I want to tell you why I have it on the home page right now. There's something that I call channeling intent. And what this means is you want to give people exactly what they're looking for, when they're looking for it. Now, most websites have their traffic hit their single post pages or their content pages. That's where most traffic hits because it's getting shared on social media. It's getting shared from search engines. That's where the traffic is hitting, is your content pages. The next place they usually go is your home page or your about page. If they're going to your home page and they click to go home, they're no longer a cold traffic source anymore. They're now a little bit warmer. They read your content, went back to your home page, no longer cold, they're a little bit warmer, which is why I hit them with a promise. As soon as they load up the page, knowing that my home page isn't the first visited page on my site, I hit them with a really aggressive promise to give them the email. This particular box converts on my site anywhere from 7 to 12%. So when you break this down a little bit, of the people who visit my content pages, I think it's about 14% of the people will click to go to my home page. And then 10% of those people convert into email addresses just by having this box. And it converts so well because, as I said, I'm giving people exactly what they wanted. If they read my content, they already believe that I have some good information. They already like what I have to say. That's when I really hit it home and kind of hit the 3 bullets that my site talks about. And I qualify every visitor by saying, who wants random traffic into loyal subscribers? Everybody who reads an article on my site is going to want that. Who wants to persuade people to buy products? Everybody. And then encourage people to share your content or website. Everybody wants that too. So I have a loaded offer here that's targeted towards all of my content on purpose, and that's why it's converting. Now let's take this to, let's say you run a stock trading website. You're talking about your results, you're talking about your research. People read your content, they enjoy it. They go click to your homepage, you can have a feature box at the top of your page that really hits whatever it is they're looking for, like how to make money in the stock market. I'll teach you how to make money in the stock market. If they just read one of your articles, chances are they want to learn that too. So you could really apply this to almost every niche. And I'm sure there's a niche out there where this doesn't work. I haven't found one yet, but if one of you do, be sure to email me and I'll stand corrected. But this is the closest thing I know to a magic bullet for getting email addresses right now, is the feature box. The last place, the third place to add the email sign-up forms is at the bottom of all of your content pages, of all of your articles. Now, I know this sounds a little silly, but there's a lot of blogs out there especially that don't put anything there. They might put sharing icons, they might put related posts, which is the stupidest thing you could put there. Because if you get people to a content page, they read your content. When they finish reading your content, they're feeling great about you. They just read your article. Most people don't read anything. So if they get down there, you know they're liking what you're offering them. Now, you could send them to another content page, but what if their kid comes by and pulls them away from the computer? What if their phone rings and they stop reading your content and then their computer crashes? Now you just lost that person and they're sitting there trying to figure out what site they were just reading that they like so much. That's why you want to put an email sign-up form at the bottom of your articles. Now, a lot of people are going to say that when they've done that, they haven't seen high conversions. And the reason why that conversion rate varies greatly is because of your content. If your content sucks, that's not going to convert at all because no one's going to get that far down your site. But if you're going to talk about research, going to talk about data, going to talk about controversy, you will be able to get people to read your whole article. And you'll see the conversion rates of those particular boxes go up drastically. Now, there's also with regard to turning people into emails, there's 3 types of pages that you want. And this really only applies to blogging and anyone who's trying to use blogging to generate free traffic and turn that traffic into leads or sales. But there's 3 types of pages. There's content pages, resource pages, and then squeeze pages. You want to have a mixture of all of these types of pages throughout your site. Now I want to go over each one of them for you. Content is self-explanatory. We talked about how to create awesome content. The next type of page is the resource page. We also talked about that, but now I want to give you the formula for creating a resource page that converts people into emails extremely well. So step 1, have a persuasive headline that focuses on a promise. Don't, the whole feature versus benefits debate. Don't give features, give benefits. Tell people that you're going to show them how you lost 20 pounds in 30 days. Tell people how you built an email list of 10,000 people in 4 months. Make it a very persuasive headline. Then, step 2 is add some introductory content that talks about whatever it is that resource page is all about. Consider this your landing strip. People read the site, read the headline, they're interested, get them to read your whole page with this landing strip. There's actually some interesting research by Paco Underhill. He found that for everyone who walked into a store, there was like 10 feet before people would even notice that they were in the store. So anything, like have you ever walked in a supermarket, you're looking for those stupid baskets that you can never find and they're always behind you? It's because you walked in, those were completely invisible. The same thing happens for these resource pages. You have that persuasive headline, they're going to see your content. That introductory content is your landing strip. That's the content that people are going to see, but they might not necessarily read. But it's going to be there just in case they read it. And when they are ready to read it, they're going to turn around and they're going to see their basket behind them. The next step is adding an email sign-up form. Now, it could go after the introductory content or the bottom of the page. I prefer it after the introductory content because it converts a little bit higher. After that email sign-up form, that's where you want to put the links to the articles. I think anywhere from 3 to 10 links works. I would even say 5 is probably the best bet, or 7, under 10. And that works off that Draeger Jam Experiment we talked about. If you give people too many options, they're going to be overwhelmed and not take any action. You want to give them just enough options to entice them to give you their email address. So that's why I'm saying maybe between 3 and 7 would be the best bet for that. Now the last part, the last kind of page is a squeeze page. You've all seen these before, where it's just a headline, some copy, and then an opt-in form. You need those pages on your site also. Not a lot of them, just some of them. Now here's where the magic happens, as they say. You want all of your content pages to link to other content pages first. Yes, you want to link to your content pages, but you want to specifically link to resource pages and squeeze pages the most. And again, if people are reading your content, they obviously like what you have to offer. If they're even thinking about clicking somewhere else, that means that you grab their attention and they want to stay on your site. That's your chance to be more aggressive with turning that traffic into an email address. So if you're only linking to squeeze pages and to resource pages, you're going to notice the whole conversion rate of your site is going to go up drastically. Now, I know Ray over here would probably hate me for saying this because you want to build internal linking for SEO purposes, and that's well and great, and you can do that still. But you want to make sure like the things in your sidebar might link to nothing but resource pages. You might want to make most of your internal linking go to these high converting pages, because even though you want to rank in search engines, Google could change that, and you could lose all of your traffic without a thought, just like happened with Panda over the last few months. So you want to link to these high converting pages and build that email list. Now, my all-time favorite way to build emails right now is webinars. And I was introduced to webinars by my friend Lewis Howes. And let me tell you why webinars are so great. Webinars are often live events where you give people presentations much like the one I'm giving right now. Now, there's some shady internet marketers who are giving webinars with nothing but sales pitches. That's not the type of webinars I'm suggesting you create. I'm saying to create great webinars with good content and then promote them on your sidebar or promote them throughout your content. Now, let me explain why webinars are so great. By default, almost all webinar software has a seating limit. GoToWebinar, my favorite software for this, has a seating limit of about 1,000 people for $500 a month. They have a lower option of 100 people for, I think, $99 a month. You can include this in your marketing. You could simply say, I'm running a live webinar that's going to take place next week at 2 p.m. on Wednesday. There's only 100 seats. Reserve your seat so you don't lose out. Now, how many people here know about loss aversion and know how that really drives action on the internet and pretty much everywhere in the world? Raise your hand if you heard about loss aversion. All right, so I'll go through and explain that really quickly. Losses loom larger than gains in almost all cases. You can tell people how to make $1 million, and that might entice them, but if you tell them how to not lose your house, that's going to be even more persuasive. People are going to fight a lot harder to keep what they have than to gain something new. Webinars take advantage of scarcity, and it's not your fault. It's the webinar software's fault. There's a lot of internet marketers who say things like limited seating, and it's fake. But this is a real seating limit. So people go crazy to make sure they reserve their seat because they don't want to lose out on this free training. Webinars are also great because people love to share the fact that they're on webinars. They love to tell people, I just signed up for this webinar. So they'll share with their friends. You'll get some viral traffic. You could even tell them, to everyone who signs up, there's only 100 seats. Be sure your friends don't lose out on one of these seats. Tell them about it now if you think they'll find this helpful. And you'll find that everyone shares these webinars with everybody else. Then finally, webinars are awesome because you keep a captive audience. People show up to a meeting, they listen to you talk for an hour, half an hour, 2 hours, however long that's going to be. And you build a really high rapport with everyone who signs up. So those people are not just going to be any old email addresses. They're going to be extremely loyal people who are going to email you and tell you how great you are. I love getting compliments, so that's awesome. They're going to email you and say how helpful you are, and they're going to tell everyone about your business or whatever it is you're selling. And then finally, webinars are awesome because it's required that people give up their name and email to sign up. Now, a lot of people give free ebooks in exchange for an email address. Everyone here has seen that. But people are getting, people are getting smart to these tricks. They know the free ebook is only for an email address. Webinars, on the other hand, it's not the marketer's fault. Webinar software requires the email. So people don't think you're being shady anymore. You're just doing it because that's how webinars work, and people know that. So I've created some webinar sign-up pages that converted 75% of the people that hit those pages. I mean, if you're getting 500 people a day to your site, and you're converting at 10%, that's 50 emails. But if you're getting 500 people, well, I'll do 1,000 because I'm bad at math. If you're getting 1,000 people a day to your site, and you convert 70% of those people, that's 700 emails. That's a real business. I mean, 700 emails in a list where you're not just spamming them offers all the time could really equal, about $10,000 a year if you're smart. So that's a final way to get leads. We talked about creating the right types of pages, the resource pages, the squeeze pages. We talked about webinars. We talked about where to place the email forms on your site for better conversions. If you do one thing today when you leave this session, I want you to add a feature box to your website. You're going to see great results. We just added one to another site, DIYthemes.com, that blog. Improved our overall conversion rate by 51.7% overnight. Going from getting 100 emails to 150 emails. That's huge. It's huge. There's no reason not to do that. Now, the last part of this framework is all about turning these new emails that you just got into sales. And a lot of people just send a bunch of offers to email lists and burn out their list really, really quick. Actually, someone came up to me before, I'm not going to name his name or call him out, but he was saying how he built a list and he's getting very, very minimal action on that list. No one's clicking the links, no one's buying anything. And it was most likely related to the reason that he burnt his list out by saying nothing but offers and didn't give the right kind of value. So this last part of this framework is all about how to give the value to this list and make sure you're still getting paid, which at the end of the day is all everyone here cares about, right? You want to make some money. Now, how do you do that? Does anyone here, well, who doesn't know what an autoresponder is? All right, so everyone does. When people sign up for an email, it's customary that a welcome email gets fired off to your list. In this welcome email, I developed a strategy as a way to instantly connect with everybody who signed up for the email list. I call it the "What are you struggling with?" question. People sign up, enter their name, give me their email, press submit. First email starts off. You ready, John? Here's the deal. Thank you for signing up. You're going to learn all about how to turn traffic into leads and sales. And if you're not getting traffic, I'll show you how to get that too. But before we get into all that, I want you to do two things. Reply to this email right now and tell me what you're struggling with. Even if it's something small, don't hesitate. Send me an email. Now, let me tell you why this question is a little sneaky. I have people emailing me and being shocked that I sent them a personal email for subscribing to my list. They think I went ahead and sent them an email. I always tell them it was an automated message, but they feel it's very personalized. Now, you would think that you might be thinking to yourself, I'm not going to respond to that email. But right now, I'm getting about 40% reply rate on everyone who subscribes to my list. And they're not just saying something like, I need more traffic. They're not saying I need more sales. They're not saying that I need more money. They're telling me their life story. And as you all no doubt know, everyone loves talking about themselves. People even love more talking about their problems. I was a poker player. If you go into a poker room, people don't shut up about the bad beats that they had. This email is the same exact way. People will write a book telling you what they need help with. I had one person send me a response that was no shorter than 2,000 words. Now, it's a lot of work to respond to these people, but it's worth it, and I'll tell you why. Who here has heard the expression, He's such a good salesman, he could sell ice to Eskimos. Everybody? That's stupid. All right? I want to sell heat to Eskimos. That's going to convert much, much higher. So I'm not going to sit there struggling around trying to figure out what my audience or what my email list wants to buy. I know exactly what they want to buy because they're telling me their problems. If someone tells me that they got deranked in search engines, I know that I can go in my email autoresponder, tag them with SEO, and now I know that I could send them targeted sales pitches for SEO products. And the conversion rate is huge. I just did this a few weeks ago. I sent out a video, 3 steps to getting more traffic. Everyone who clicked to watch that video, I sent a follow-up sequence. Since they clicked to watch a video to get more traffic, I knew they wanted more traffic. I sent them the following day a sales pitch, pitching a traffic product. And combined with that video with a little small affiliate link below the video, and then that follow-up email, pitching a traffic product, I did something like $3,000 in sales in 20 hours that I didn't have before because I treated my email list correctly and I gave them exactly what they wanted. When people are responding to these emails, you could tag them, you could start pitching them exactly what they want. You're not selling ice to Eskimos. You're giving them heat. It's a much easier sell. Now, I know I talked a lot about content. And even though I showed you those 5 types of content that generate a lot of traffic, there's a different type of content that works really well for selling, especially when you're selling through email. And I want to go through these types of content right now. The first one is what I call story-driven content. Now, the formula for story-driven content is you always want to start out telling a story about a problem. Then you want to explain how this particular story is a problem for whoever it is that's reading this particular email. Then you want to move into the pitch, where you sell a product that solves the problem that you just created for people. Now, I want to go through an email that I had sent to the DIY themes list, and it started off very simply. The other day, someone emailed me and said, "Help, I'm not ranking in search engines." I was feeling generous, so I loaded up their site, and I was shocked. This person was doing a lot of things right. Now, do you see what I'm doing right there? I'm connecting with every single email reader. Everyone thinks they're doing something right. So I'm sitting here saying, this person says, "Help, I'm not ranking in search engines." And people on the list aren't ranking in search engines. Here's this person that's doing everything right. Everyone reading, no one does any wrong, so they're thinking, I'm doing it right too. They're automatically connecting with whatever it is I'm about to say. I then went down the list of problems that this person had. I made it very clear. I right-clicked, said view source. Oh, this person didn't have H1 tags, or this person didn't have internal linking. I just went through all these different problems. By the time the email was done, I told people about problems they probably didn't know they had, and then we moved into the pitch where we're selling thesis as a solution to these problems. Now, I'm running a little short on time, so I'm going to speed this up a little bit. The next type of content that sells is you got to show people how to use whatever it is you're selling. People are dumb. You might think it's easy to use whatever it is you're selling. Chances are someone will mess it up. I still can't work my universal remote, and I read the directions. So you want to make everything very easy on everybody. And as an example, who here has heard of Dropbox? Dropbox is a file sharing website. Now, they're not writing this content, but someone is writing the content on, like Lifehacker, how to use Dropbox as a content delivery network, how to use Dropbox to give people downloadable files and track the downloads. You could show people how to use whatever it is you're selling, and it's going to work extremely well. The key here is when you're selling this how-to-driven content, the purpose of the article isn't your product. The purpose of the article is whatever benefit it is that you're trying to show people. So there might be an example of, I'm going to show you how I added a feature box to the top of my site and increased my conversion rates. That's starting off with results. People are going to want to do it. Then I'm going to move into how, and I did this, how it's really easy to add that feature box if you use Thesis. And that article did well. We weren't tracking the sales on it, but I'm pretty confident that it was a really great article because, after all, people don't think that they did anything wrong. The last type of content is the highly targeted pitch. This is the stuff where you just go in an email, tell them about a product, and tell them to buy it. Now, if you're sending this to your entire email list, you are going to piss a lot of people off. I always like to do a two-step process. I like to give out some content that's related to whatever it is I'm selling, maybe how-to-driven content or story-driven content, and then do a follow-up email to only the people who read that content or the people who clicked to read that content. And I just did this the other day. I wrote about landing pages. I did a follow-up email pitching a software for landing pages. And I think I did $1,200 in sales just by pitching the people who read an article about landing pages, did a pitch for the landing page software. And I got 0 unsubscribes. I didn't piss anybody off. That's how you market to your email list without burning them out. So that's the framework I have for you. How to get traffic, how to turn that traffic into leads, then how to make those leads into sales. And now I'll take questions. Anyone? You have to go up to the mic, I think. So go up to the mic if you have a question. Yeah.
On your on the homepage with the feature here,
yeah.
Below that, do you have any additional content, or is your homepage just the offer?
I have content. I have about 5 or 6 blog posts that you'll see underneath it. I could pull it up right now. So you'll see the regular content here, linking to the resource pages that I was talking about. So yeah, there's content. You could be more aggressive and actually not show content, but instead show more social proof, or show, someone else I know that does this is Laura Roeder. You can see her here where she does. This is a little bit more aggressive, where you'll see her up the top. She'll have a feature box, and then below it, she'll have some links, but no content. So you could do it that way, too. Anyone else have any more questions?
I have one for you. You mentioned webinars.
Yep.
But I found you on a podcast with Pat Flynn.
Say again?
I found you on a podcast with Pat Flynn. I'm wondering if podcasts is something you're going to figure into your marketing. Has it worked?
Yeah, so what I was doing was videos. You probably saw the video, right? I was doing a lot of videos with people because in the marketing niche, it's a little crowded. And the main way to get traffic was writing articles for other people's sites, but I don't like to give away my articles. It takes me too long to write them. So I was doing videos with people instead. So it was different. It was a different format of content. And when I did these videos, instead of doing the normal articles, it was sending me a lot more leads, a lot more traffic, a lot more sales, because I was doing something a little bit differently than everybody else. Any more questions?
So with your strategy of chasing hot news,
Yes.
It seems like the news hits and you're trying to kind of chase that story.
Yep.
So where does the traffic come from is my first question. And then sort of how do you promote that? You talked about
Yep.
a bunch of ways, but for like the football seeding disaster. So some
All right.
examples.
All right, so once upon a time, I had a celebrity gossip site. I wrote celebrity gossip. It was horrible. Did well, but I was writing gossip. It was horrible. Who remembers the Kanye West, Taylor Swift ordeal? People were enraged about that. Everyone was writing about how Kanye Swift dissed Taylor Swift. I wanted to chase that hot news. I went on Twitter, pulled up maybe 30 quotes from people on Twitter talking about this particular debacle. Pulled it together on Twitter, on my website, and then went out and promoted it to other celebrity gossip sites, saying, hey, look, you heard about the Kanye West thing. Check out what people are saying on Twitter. Back then, Twitter was just starting to get hot, so everyone wanted to write about it because Twitter was new. And sure enough, I think that sent something like 100,000 people to my site in 12 hours.
So over the past few months, you've like really exploded on the scene. What's your strategy before to basically become an expert in where you're at? Do you have a specific strategy?
Yeah, naked pictures. That always gets traffic. No, I usually write about a few articles a month, and I make sure that my articles usually hit all of the types of content that I talk about. I always talk about research. I always talk about results. I always try to create a controversy. If you create those particular 5 types of content that we talked about and actually use all of them in one article, you're going to find you have a nice piece of link bait on your hands. And I did this recently with an article called How Images Improve or Destroy Conversion Rates, where I talk about something simple, talk about some research, talk about some more results, talk about everything that we talked about. That article generated, 15,000 people in the marketing niche in 4 days, just by combining those 5 types of content together. Anyone else? Nobody? I must have given a very complete presentation. Which means we have one more question, but since we got no questions, and I obviously did awesome, circle 10 on that feedback form. We got... Cool.